Ustam, that you invited together with Victor this event. It's great to have so many people together and sort of focus on changes that we are experiencing these years in the programs and the methods for teaching people in international tax laws. So I think it's very good time to address this, and I'm very much looking forward to this particular webinar.
Excellent. Victor, should we introduce us? I will start for myself. Rustam Vahitov, former ITC Leiden alumni. I graduated in 2001, and now I work as international tax partner of Crow Expertise. That's the international network, physically based in the Netherlands, but working for the Russian entity. Victor, would you say a few words about yourself?
Yes, I'm from Moscow, Viktor Machekin, and I'm General Secretary of IFA Russia, leader of Russian tax practice of Linklaters, and also professor in Moscow Finance University and Kutafin University as well.
Excellent. Yimin, may I ask you to introduce yourself?
Yeah, this is Yimin. I'm from China. I'm a tax lawyer focused on tax litigation. Yeah.
Okay, great. Marcus?
Yes, I'm Marcus Susilo. I'm tax partner with Crow in the UAE, and I'm also sitting in the regional tax committee of Crow Global as well, representing the GCC.
Lovely. So I'm just moving across the gallery. Next person I see is Monia. Monia, please. You have mic off. You have microphone switched off.
Good morning, everyone. This is Munia Naum, ITC alumni, graduated in 2014. I'm working as international consultant, working mainly by myself, and I cover the region in the Middle East, North Africa, and I work with entities and advisory firm in Singapore.
Good. Bija.
Hello, everyone. This is Beijia. Originally, I'm from China and now based in Netherlands. I graduated from ITC in 2019.
Okay, excellent. David, your turn.
Hello, I'm from the US. I had a longer than I can count career with US taxation and recently had the honor, thanks to Kees van Raad, to attend the ITC program and received my master's with Beja in 2019. Right now, my company is called Inbound USA Realty, which specializes in helping people wanting to invest in United States hard assets. Although owing to the reputation of Mr. van Raad and the program, I end up getting a fair volume of tax work as well.
Okay, thank you. Andrei Kudyarov.
Hello, I'm from St. Petersburg, Russia. Studied in Leiden 2007, 2008. Now I'm regional head of tax for Shell in Caspian. That's all.
Okay, excellent. So next Russian name, Lyudmila Titova.
Good morning, I'm Lyudmila. I'm also alumni of ITC Leiden, and I graduated in 2019. Now I work as international tax specialist in the Netherlands.
Great. And Itzhak Amil, perhaps the earliest graduate, is that the first year or second year you graduated?
Yeah, so my name is Itzhak Amil. Thanks to Rustam, and yeah, indeed, I was the first graduate. Also, because my name started with A, so we were just 4 students in our year. 98, 99, that was the year. Yeah, I had a beautiful success in the legal world, as you know, thanks to Leiden. I also started the Young IFA, those you know, I chaired it. I was the first founder and the chair. But now I'm an international speaker, best-selling author, and I'm chairing the business development and marketing of the International Bar Association. So shift of career, but again, thanks to Leiden, I discovered my skill.
Okay. Well, as you see, there is a large variety of regions, large variety of countries, backgrounds, and what unites us. We all studied in Leiden at a certain point in time. That was great experience, but we will speak about this. The idea is that Victor will discuss with a case number of issues which we found most relevant. So I just pass on the floor to Victor in case.
Okay, Rustam, thanks. Let me ask Case to say a couple of words about the center, what's going on today. So if you can make the short introduction, it will be good for the start of our discussion.
Okay, well, thank you, Victor. I'll be happy to give a very brief overview of how things sort of developed. So when ITC was founded, as Itzik mentioned, now over 20 years ago, we started our first program in 1998. The scene of teaching international tax law has changed dramatically. Of course, for most of the past years, we have run our programs mostly on a live presence of the students, well, in our case in Leiden. Well, there were great pluses and there were important minuses to the approach we had. Of course, when people have to come for a full year to a particular location, people from all over the world, that means they have to set aside a full period of a year time-wise, which is an enormous challenge. I mean, how are you going to organize it? People are working, have family, and so on. The home situation in itself, of course, is also a pretty important restriction often. Is it possible to leave one's job for a full year and not having ordinary income? One has a family, with children. Is that possible to leave them? There is, of course, also a big cost. The price ticket for these programs isn't low. You get a lot in return, but still, it's a lot of money. And particularly people from countries and economies where price levels are much lower. A price, let's say, between 15,000 and 20,000 euros can be pretty high. At the same time, if you go away to a foreign country to live there for a year and to be full-time engaged in your studies, and doing so in the company of many people who made the same choice, offers tremendous opportunities. I recall myself many decades ago when, after my graduation in tax law from Leiden University, I went to Georgetown in Washington, D.C., and I lived there for a year. And well, at that time, there were not many students doing that. So as a matter of fact, in my class, I was the only foreign student. But at the same time, it was a tremendous sort of life experience, changing experience I had over there. I lived in the United States. I hadn't been there before. It very importantly changed my outlook on the United States. Also, my travels later in that country helped. So apart from studying a particular topic and becoming familiar in great technical detail of one's study subject, you gain this very important, life experience in, being in a foreign country, getting to know people in that country, getting to know your fellow students, something that simply cannot be replaced by an online experience. So I think we are now at a cross-section where traditional approaches to teaching and learning internationally are sort of, we're going to have two options. I'm sure that the situation we have had in the past years and the past decades will continue for those who can't afford time-wise, money-wise to go to a foreign country. It seems that at the same time, many additional opportunities have opened to make it also possible for people who do not have the time, who do not have the funds to be for a full year in a foreign country, to get at least some training, maybe in a smaller time frame, also in a smaller budget. But it's going to be challenging, and I'm very happy that the good side of this awful pandemic we are on, the good side is that we have accelerated the whole process of communicating through international video means. Of course, many universities, particularly in the United States, already were on the road of developing this. But as I said, things have been accelerated because of the pandemic. And it's very interesting to see how this will be further developing in the months and years to come. As a teacher, I must say that it's quite obvious that it's much more difficult and challenging to make the same sort of impact as a teacher online than you can make in a classroom. In a classroom, you face your students, you can address them very directly. And that's sort of missing online. So as a teacher, you have this barrier, this non-physical presence of your students. And for students, you also have to overcome, because for them, the challenges of staying focused on the screen, staying focused on the teacher, and not doing at the same time other things, doing your email or your whatever messages or other activities you're considering that you wouldn't do in class, you may do online. So a lot of opportunities, a lot of challenges, and let me leave it here, because we have plenty of time we should have plenty of time to discuss it with all the people involved, Victor.
Okay, we see that as always you are busy and reacting to circumstances, pandemics, and formal may be changed somehow. We may discuss a bit later. But what's your view on general, let's say, market for international taxation profession? Because you and your center produce a lot of high quality international tax experts. What's going on with demand, whether it's stable, declining, increasing? So what's your view on this?
Well, I think we went through a major increase, I would say, over the past decade, and I think the demand will keep increasing for many more years to come. I think the situation with China is fairly typical. When we started in 1998, we didn't have any students from China in the first years. I think my first visit to China academically was in 2003. And it was very difficult at the time to find among universities professors who were sufficiently specialized in tax to have any sort of knowledge or understanding of international tax law. There were virtually none. And at the same time, also, I think in China, in the early part of this millennium, it was very difficult for the first Chinese students we had that graduated and that went back to China to find a job, that was sort of commensurate to the skills he had acquired. I think tax practice in China simply didn't accommodate yet a great need for people with this specialty. Well, things have changed tremendously, of course, in recent years. But I think what we experienced in China over the past, let's say, 15, 20 years is still true for many countries. There is only sort of a starting interest and knowledge, an experience level in international tax. And I think there is a lot of room to be filled. I think there are great numbers of people that are waiting to be trained. So people with an interest and a knowledge in international tax law, I think all have a great future.
Great. So here we may ask colleagues what they think, maybe from different and original perspectives. There are something specific.
Victor, we just leave this original overview to the end of discussion, as we agreed, because otherwise we are going to have like 2 hours conversation.
Okay.
Developments.
Okay. And also, Case also commented on the regional aspects already. Okay. Well, Case, being a professor, there is a privilege and opportunity to see how your former students, build their careers. And definitely you see many of these careers, and you are in contact with your students and former students. What's your view on impact on your program on careers? Does it affect networking? Is there any special features of your program which may affect future of students? Do you see any logic, any statistics?
Well, one thing that we always invested a lot of resources in at the ITC program is providing a very well-functioning sort of social cohesion, social network among our students. And that works not only among the students of a given year, it also turns out it works between students of different years, even many years apart. For example, I recently got a message from a particular student who was looking for an ITC alumnus in a particular other country. Why was he looking for such an alumnus? Because he was fully aware of the level of knowledge and sort of the general approach ITC alumni take towards international tax, and he was very comfortable with that. And rather than taking the risk of finding a advisor in a country that would simply have a different level of technical knowledge or a different overall approach, he sort of preferred to be dealing with an ITC alumnus. And that is something that is not the primary aim of the program. The primary aim clearly is to educate people, to give people the technical means, the skills, the insight, the knowledge to work in international tax law. But it's very important for the professional life, of course, that they do have this network among their colleagues of the given year, but also network sort of vertically in all the years before them and the years after them. I think that's important, and this networking is, of course, only made easier with the easy ways of communicating now internationally through Zoom and Teams and what sort of programs do you have. So personally also, normally I would see my alumni only when I would be visiting a country. Now I frequently engage in Zoom meetings with individual students with whom I would like to discuss something. So I think the technical state of affairs today is perfect for maintaining and expanding your network among your friends and alumni.
Oh, great, interesting. So definitely there is a networking, a network, and it's not an A network. It is something specific because people really would like to talk with the people at the same level of knowledge, and it is something specific in this network. So it's not a dating standard dating network. Well, let us the alumni what they think about this, whether it's correct or not. Maybe they will add some more colors on this.
Yeah, that would be great, of course, to ask what graduates doing, how this impacted life of people who studied in Leiden. Andrei, would you be prepared to give a comment on how Leiden affected your life and career?
Well, sure, I can do. I actually started to work after Leiden in Prague, where many people graduated from another university, another program of Professor Lang. So they were more skeptical to Leiden, but through understanding how good it is as well. But when you come to countries where not much Leiden alumni here, and if you come maybe start as a manager, it helps you to get many projects because you have quite a good knowledge understanding. But sometimes you need to fight on technical grounds because many people are not on the same level, and sometimes they are higher ups than yourself. But I mean, that's really the Leiden program gives you a comfort and how to say, you understand the issues, you spot the issues on early signs, and you're also very easy to communicate with various foreign firms where you need to explain the structures or you explain the transactions or where you find the pitfalls. I would say being in Leiden is really very helpful, and if you have alumni in your firm, it also helps a lot. But when you are new in the market, or people are, for them it's new, international tax or a program like Leiden, wow, they just test you every time, so you just be prepared. But after all, you build your reputation, and it really helps. And a lot of people are asking, oh, how can I come to Leiden? How can I get this education as well? So I think overall, it was very helpful. It was a huge boost for international tax career for an advisor. But still, if a market where you live or you operate is new for, and they don't know Leiden that well, that might be challenged to build up a reputation, but that's payoff.
Okay. Thank you. That's partially also my experience being Leiden graduate. Itzek, what is your experience or impression how Leiden affected your career?
So I will go back to what just Case mentioned. He mentioned things very important, because when I joined in '98, I definitely didn't join for alumni. We were just 4 students. So you may say, some of you say, oh my God, what a risk. So there's definitely get and somewhere to know what's going on. Well, there are other programs in the market, but we felt that was something different. If I remember correctly, it was the only program in the world that all the teachers were coming from all over the world. So you had a variety of teachers, a variety of opportunities, where if you go to one university, you get only the people from that university, and then you're stuck. If they're not good, you cannot change them. Those of you who knows me, I teach networking. So I can tell you definitely with all my heart, so if you want to stand out as a tax lawyer nowadays, there are 2 components you need to have: the technical knowledge, the expertise, the knowledge itself, and the connections. Without connection, you cannot stand out. You maybe be the best kept secret of your market. So Leiden, where it is now, with a variety of people, I have no doubt in my heart that it influenced all my career. I mean, I'm speaking about it on big stages. I established Young IFA because of the alumni and what I learned. All the tax job that I had in the Netherlands and others came because of my showing that I was part of ITC. It was a name, in all cases, I had a name internationally, and you could really use, and you open the doors, and you will say good words about you. I remember with the law firm. So I think there's a lot of things, and if you miss the individualism attention you get, you will never understand it. You could study everywhere in the world, but when you feel that somebody there important than you are, a professor, one of the known in the world, give you personal attention, this is worth much more than just studying. And I think for that, people need to pay attention, because that you cannot compare in the brochures, you cannot see it online. Only by talking to other alumni, the experience, you learn it.
Okay, thanks a lot, Itzek. Monia, you also had very valuable comment on this question too.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, if I were to summarize it without really being dramatic or emotional about it, in my experience with ITC, there's simply before and after ITC for my personal experience. And the reason why is that I come from an Arabic, French-speaking country. I'm from Morocco. So we study in French. So the usual path for us is going to Paris Dauphine, for example. It's usually France. But for me, with an engineering background, landing in ITC in an Anglophone speaking or English speaking program, that was just a life-changing experience, literally. And as Itzek said, having a great professor just there dedicated. I was literally the one doing like this, not taking notes, just drinking case speech. And in terms of experience, you end up with not only a high technical luggage or background, but also access to a network. I'm currently in Morocco, but working with CA advisory in Singapore. I have access to a high network. I get invited to speak in conferences, either in Africa, in Europe, or IFA Global, for instance. And we always end up with, if we need something in any country in the world, either I know someone or I know someone who knows someone in that country. And that's a great asset, actually. Or even if we have a question about something, you can only WhatsApp your friends. We have a WhatsApp group till now, question solved. And I think this is the greatest thing also. Another thing that I see that it's really particular is that we all come from different backgrounds, not only in terms of countries or legislation, but also backgrounds in terms of studies. In ITC, there were accountants, there were people from a law background, there were people from finance background, from economics. And in my year, we were 2 engineers in there in strategy and processes. So it's just a different basket, and each one has a different perspective. So now it pays off. If we need someone in transfer pricing, you know who you could call, or in tax treaties, you know. And I think this is really good. Maybe I could, without really taking that much time, I could add also, since we're talking about diversity, what I loved about the ITC program is the diversity, of course, in the program, but the diversity of the depth. For example, when we were doing tax treaties, we had to really dive deep in terms of comments and interpretation without lacking the view or the access to the application of the DTAs themselves. So you have the practical and academic knowledge. When we did, for example, transfer pricing, there were workshops. You've got the academic knowledge, but you really had to work on practical workshops. So this is the diversity that really serves the market. You end up graduating with an academic knowledge, but also very practical as well. I think I would stop here.
Okay, thank you very much, Monia. Yimin, would you comment on your experience on?
Yes, yeah. I also graduated in 2008, same year with Andrew. And after the graduation, I actually, work in one of the Big Four and then local consulting company. And ITC education, they helped me actually, transfer to a tax lawyer and focus on tax litigation. I mean, in 2015, and one of the biggest U.S. fund, fund me and counted me, and because they have the transfer pricing cases, and the reason why they counted, because they think I have a law background, and especially I have the ITC education background, and at that time, actually, we in China's market, there's a shortage of export, for internal taxation. And after I discussed with the client and find the fact, procedure, and the argument of the tax authority, we set up a rare strategy and launch a tax reconsideration against the SAT in the SAT level. Actually, the case was ended in favor of a client, and the case is also the first tax reconsideration case in SAT level against the SAT. And after we win that case, I think and foresee there will be a lot of tax dispute cases in the future, and then I decided to transfer my job from a consulting company to a law firm, and And that is, ITC education helped him a lot. And so actually from the 2015, and I, handled, dozens of the tax reconsideration and tax litigation case. In 2018, we also launched a tax consideration case in SAT level against the SAT. And so I think, apart from the rich knowledge we learned in ITC, and one of the best I cherished a lot is the critical thinking in ITC. I mean, I benefit a lot from that thinking, and also I'm distinguished from others in China, especially about that critical thinking. Actually, and because of that, distinguished critical thinking, I in 2018 we won a case regarding the purely domestic tax issues, and that tax litigation case is a rare taxpayer winning case, and since that case is a really landmark and have a lot of influence, so it was selected as the first of the top 10 Chinese case taxation litigation cases in 2008. So you can see I really benefit from ITC education, and find job and transform my career as a tax litigation lawyer in China. So I'm still here, and I should say very thanks to the kids. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
David, we are moving further. Could you please switch your mic on and share with us your experience?
Sorry, so share your mic.
I asked David to comment.
Okay, David, okay.
Thank you. I just obviously must second and reemphasize what others have said about the networking effect. It's just extraordinary. The way I put it rhetorically to my family and professional colleagues in the US is, I bargained for a good LLM program in international tax, and I got it, but I got two times the value because I also got the network of colleagues all around the world. But I think, if I may, there's an even further point to be made about the networking, which is that we spent 10 months, 6 hours a day, 5 days a week with each other. So I became very friendly with people from different parts of the world. And what was important for that professionally is it gave a kind of situational awareness to me. If I deal with someone in India, the year at Leiden kind of removed the fog. It removed the blank spaces as far as getting a feel for what Indian professionals are. And even though there's a certain sort of shared something or other in the Western Hemisphere with the Chileans and the Brazilians, it gave that sense of comfort in their culture. And I don't want to presume that I really know their culture, but the point is that in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And if you know people, you have a sense of sort of what's normal and what's not normal. And that's immensely important. And then very quickly, just an odd thing, it might amuse all of you. So a week ago, my sister emailed me that she has her friend's daughter is starting a program at Columbia University, and she needs an internship somewhere in Europe on immigration or blah, blah, blah. So right away, I knew someone because of, it was actually a friend of Martin DeVille introduced me to this guy. So here I am connecting her with a nonprofit in Brussels. Who would have ever thought you could do such a thing? So even beyond the tax thing. And then here's perhaps to me, this is the most salient point about this. The US is such a big market that you can and 90% or 95% of the tax lawyers in the US, you spend 100% of your career doing US tax. You can make a lot of money. trust me, you don't have to know anything about international tax. I took international tax in law school. I took international tax at NYU. Never once did I use any of that knowledge in my professional career over a series of decades. So the US is very siloed and solipsistic and self-referential. The international tax experts are like people that do, very specialized things that you only call them when you have that specialized thing. In the Netherlands, just if you're in a high-level business transaction, you're always doing international things. In the US, you can do billion-dollar deals and it has no international tax questions to it. So breaking down that barrier, and that perhaps gets to a later discussion among US tax lawyers between that very segregated mindset of US taxation and non-US taxation is it struck me as how disconnected the two are, and just something that I've been thinking about, and Case I know recalls some conversations we had about breaking down that wall between US tax lawyers, 90, 95, 98% of them, and then US tax lawyers who have an expertise in international. Right now they live in different worlds.
Okay. Thank you. Very valuable comment. From my side, perhaps what I can add, that's really a privilege to be in position to be Leiden alumni. During preliminary discussion, I told that I'm not going to intervene on this question too, because I was telling the story of Rustam Vakhitov so many times, how it changed before and after, so people would really annoyed. But this session was gathered just within, actually effectively, a little bit more than 1 week. So I got in touch with David through Bija. I got in touch with Emin through Bija as well. So I happen to know ITC for a number of years. And that's really a big network. So over 20 years, it grew up significantly. It's rather easy to find someone in other country, in other field of expertise. And it's really a privilege to be able to communicate with Case on such an easy way, just email. So I presume that it's worth going to Leiden only to be part of this community. But of course, you get quite a lot of excellent technical knowledge. Ludmila, you are one of the most recent graduates. Could you please share with us your experience?
Yes, with pleasure. And I think I will say mostly the same as previous alumni. I managed to get a really deep and detailed understanding of international tax law, its basic principles and concepts, and also strong academic background, and of course networking. It was such a pleasure to be able to learn from the best tax professors of international tax law in the world, to be able to see them like in real life, ask questions, have discussions, and of course my course mates. That's, I think, one of the main assets from this course. I studied together with other 62 students from all over the world, different countries. And also after my graduation, I was lucky and be able to communicate with many alumni from the previous years, from different countries. And it was always pleasure and very beneficial to me in professional way and also in a personal way. So for me, it was like also really life-changing experience, and I enjoyed this time in Leiden a lot.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ludmila. This was one of the longest intervention of alumni because everyone wanted to share positive emotions about the past experience of studies. Also, we are all grateful to Case for this opportunity. Let's move further. So, Victor, what is the next topic you would like to discuss?
Yes. No comments on this networking things. So it's clear witness evidence that network exists. It is added each year with new members. But let's be back to the program itself, because probably there is an explanation why there are so great results. So Okay, question about the program. Is there any serious evolution in the program, apart from obvious things like BEPS elements in any international text program? So do you see anything new in your program for the last years?
Well, it's interesting if one would compare the curriculum as we offered it in 1998, the first year, which ITC was participating, and compare that to the program as we offered it most recent year we completed. Many changes. And where do they come from? Well, what you see is that in international text practice, of course, there have been important shifts in attention. Take for example, text treaties. In the early years, it turned out that the greatest need was in the sort of the technical understanding of how text treaties work. And it remains important, of course. There is no way you can work with text treaties efficiently if you don't have a solid understanding of how they work. But at the same time, we saw in the last 10 years, I would say, a shift, no, not a shift, but a sort of a concentration, a greater focus on the way text treaties are used. I mean, indeed, if you look at the devices, and now the discussion on the blueprints within the OECD, policy sides and general trends as more attention being paid to tax avoidance and tax evasion, that is something that is also reflected in the way the program has been organized. Second example, the stress on transfer pricing. I think over the years we more than doubled the number of hours we spent on transfer pricing, because it turns out that in tax practice that becomes an increasingly important feature of the daily life of international tax lawyers. So what you see is that the developments in tax practice are reflected. What you also see is that some students, there is an increasing number of students that are interested in sort of an academic career. Students interested in doing a PhD after the conclusion of their studies, and that reflects also the interest on the side of universities to pay more and more attention to not only to tax law in general, but international tax law in specifically. And personally, I always have found it very important that if you design a curriculum, make sure it's also an interesting curriculum for those who would later like to become teachers themselves, professors teaching at universities, because any program, any university can try to train as many people as it can accommodate. But the more challenging aspect of teaching is try to teach your own future teachers. Make sure that the ideas, that the approach, that the knowledge level that has been developed is going to be transferred to the teachers of the next generation. So that's something I've become increasingly aware of. And I'm very happy to see that quite a number of alumni of ITC are in this day and age either teaching full-time or working full-time in tax practice, but being an associate professor at a prominent university and giving their classes on international tax law, and sometimes even more specifically on tax treaties or international tax planning. So this is another change I've watched over the years that is reflected in the way we have organized our program. I hope, Oostam, I've sort of addressed the issue that you would like me to explain a bit in a good way.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yep. May I ask a follow-up question? Sorry, technical one about the books.
Would you allow me to make a big? Would you allow me to make a short questionnaire? We discussed with Case some of the aspects of ITC Leiden education courses. And if you would like to know a bit more about this, so that's the questionnaire which I would like to launch. Please indicate your willingness to learn more about this Leiden program. And maybe we can ask Case to make a brief presentation outlining what ITC courses may offer. That's a short questionnaire, basically. Just indicate your interest, and we will invite those who are interested to learn more about what Case is doing, what Case is going to do in the future, maybe for a brief presentation, brief specific presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So pretty much all the participants are willing to learn. And we will assure that you will get the requested information. Victor, Case, would you mind if I just ask Yimin to intervene and tell about the evolution of international tax programs and offerings in the Chinese market?
Okay, and yes, things change a lot due to the coronavirus 19, and so I decided to slow down my life and quit my job as in a PwC as a partner, and decided to read more books and think the meaning of life. And during that thinking, I think I find that the young tax lawyers and they are lack of litigation skills, and I think after this coronavirus-19, and there will be a shortage of the taxation resources in worldwide, and therefore there will be a lot of tax dispute issues in terms of the Chinese going abroad company. So if it happens in China, we are very shortage of that kind of tax lawyers. So then I decided to launch a program, and this program lasts 1.5 years, and it will contain 21 lessons and focus only on tax litigation skills. And it's for free, but it's not open to the public. And all of the attendees should have the internal tax law background, and most of them are ITC alumni, of course, and they are from Big Four and law firm and SAT people, and also university and companies, and they find their course is very interesting, and also it's highly praised by the expert in China. So from my experience, I think in China, and tax litigation skills will be required, especially for the young tax lawyers, and they don't have the litigation skills experience. So based on my experience, I think in China, this kind of post-ITC program and focus on the tax litigation skill will be a kind of illusion in Chinese market. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And when I learned about this course, I was very excited because in Russia, we have quite a lot of litigation, specifically on international tax matters. And there is another questioner who would like to maybe learn more about Yimin course. The idea was maybe to ask Yimin to deliver some brief additional presentation, presenting her course and, well, Chinese important economy, I'm pretty much sure there will be quite a lot of people willing to learn what is happening in the field of litigation in this country, specifically in the field of international taxation. And going forward, maybe there might be interest in some local courses on this matter, including the one in Russia. But let's wait first for more detailed information from Yimin. Thank you for your responses. So I'm basically closing this this query. And we will contact those who would like to learn more, and maybe Yimin could deliver more substantive comment or presentation on this matter.
Okay.
I know that Monia also wanted to comment on development on international tax programs, and Monia also did particular course for the local authorities. Monia, would you be prepared to comment on this?
Yes, thank you. Actually, I would like to share in terms of, maybe I would like to highlight for government side, because I worked myself with the government, either here in Morocco, but also in Qatar. And I had the chance to work with the Qatari government also for trainings and assessments as well. I think there's a big need for governments to invest in international tax education, either in terms of negotiation and application of tax treaties, but also with everything happening here, so many governments now are joining the BEPS inclusive framework, then they just found themselves facing a need to draft new legislation for country by country reporting, for example, or those who signed FATCA, and also there's a need for CRS. And all these details raised actually a need for investing in the education, because these government officials were working mainly on domestic tax legislation. Some auditors would sometimes face some international aspects, but then all of a sudden, with everything happening in the international scene, we all need to negotiate international agreements or tax treaties, and also make sure we are safe from any base erosion, for example, or any abuse of those treaties. Governments have to introduce anti-abuse measures in their domestic legislations, and also draft anything related to TP, including CBC. And all that is kind of new to these entities. And I think there's a need to invest in terms of education. Maybe my friend Marcos could comment on Gulf. I wouldn't jump in there, but I would just highlight that now there's a big need to invest in taxation in general. Some countries were not much involved in anything related to taxation because they don't need money, for example. But now with the drop in oil and gas prices, we had to go and dig into taxation and make sure that we have something proper. So yeah, there's a need to invest in this area. I'm talking only from a governmental side, but I think it's also for the other side as well. But if I were only to talk about North Africa and all Africa actually, but also in the Middle East, we need to invest in that as well. Thank you.
Marcus, I see your mic is switched off. So could you switch on your mic?
Well, I think this is the same question, right? That you have asked, Monia.
Yeah, the question is basically the same. What is your expectation in respect of evolution of international taxation programs, and in particular for the Gulf region?
Yeah, in the Gulf region, I mean, we did a couple of brief research. Apparently, and I'm talking more of a generic tax education here. It seems that there is not really there's a university or specific institution or educational institution that offer a special program in taxation, like what you have, for instance, in let's take Netherlands as an example, right? And there are some, let's say, one or two organizations that already offer kind of like a tax certification or maybe a shorter program in our region, but as of now, it's still, I would say, a greenfield for educational institution that would like to look at this region as a market for education, right? And in terms of the need of having international taxation, as Monia has mentioned as well, the same case also in the Gulf region, the implementation of the OECD PEPs are now somehow a bit accelerated, I would say. And yes, from the government perspective, that as Monia said, people needs to be more educated in terms of how to get to know all of the side from the government side, but also from the private side. We also need, we also need to have people who know what they are doing when it comes to structuring the taxation here, or at least being in compliance with the new tax law as well. So the way I see it is, I think there will be a tremendous need and demand here, and then let's see who's going to come first here and offer something interesting like ITC Leiden.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Marcus, for your comment. Victor, the floor is yours again. So we went through the comments of alumni. Please feel free to move to the next topic you would like to discuss with Case.
Yes. Thanks, Rustam. Digital life. Well, it's important. It's important part of reality, and we see extremely new things in taxation related to digital things. Also, Case mentioned how digital things are used in the current educational programs and process. But what about digital future for the profession of international taxation? Case, our robots are coming to replace the majority of us. Is artificial intelligence is ready to replace us in some or many areas? What's your expectation?
Well, of course, I'm not an expert in this area, but my sense is that, well, take for example the medical profession. Take for example surgery. Today, many surgeons are greatly assisted with digital means to do a much better job than they could do without. They could even, as we have learned over the past years, engage in surgery at a distance. Having computer-controlled equipment that they can manipulate from one location, and the thing will be taking place at another location. So I think we will greatly benefit from all sort of digital means that's going to be available to us, both teaching-wise and also in the profession where the real tax work is being done. At the same time, it's obvious to me that for a long time to go, this availability of digital means will particularly help us to get rid of routine type of things. I believe that all these things where really well-trained lawyers, tax lawyers, international tax lawyers are good at will be affected. No. I think we will be able to do our jobs better with all the assistance of digital knowledge, access we have to all sort of source of knowledge, but the clever thinking out of new approaches is something that will be reserved to the human mind and will not be done by computers or all other types of digital assistants for a long time to go. So I don't think that in our own lifetime, in the lifetime of our children, maybe even grandchildren, this will be a issue that we have to worry about. By the way, Victor, you mentioned something about books earlier, and you couldn't develop that, but that is something that you perhaps also should readdress in a sec.
Okay, so let's go to the books then.
Okay, good.
Please.
in respect of digitalization, Andrei Kudyarov, so you had some thoughts on this, as I recall.
Well, it's slowly coming, because I mean, every time when you talk to big companies, they're thinking how to utilize this digitalization trend. And the practical example from us internally, that we build so-called chatbot for approving power of attorneys that looks whether the PE or effective management or whatever things are not trigger anything, but it's just starting. It's more about data for the returns and for various things like controlling the people movement across territories for PE or global mobility tax issues, but it's starting. It probably will help us, I mean, as a professional, to simplify some of our labor, but it also may result in some redundancies. I mean, the tax teams might be smaller to cover more wider issues with great assistance from technologies. So this is probably a future that we'll see sooner or later.
Okay, okay. Thank you. And Bija, you also had some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think and the case and Andre also give a pretty and a good overview. What I would also like to talk about is I find this topic very interesting, and I wrote ITC thesis on tax and digitalization, and because I think and this area is complex and also has a lot to be shaped. And and also and for this session, and I found and some sources, and for instance like PwC and leverages and AI, and in tax compliance and reporting, and also in tax chatbot, and also and accounts and classification. So it's already and being used in this technology. And Deloitte and also predicts that AI offers the possibility of taking content and from text websites and then restructuring the content and based on the way and how users and search. And so and also and by this way and the technology and also provide as additional and the guidance like in the form, have you considered, and questions. And so as seeing that technology is indeed and growing, and as for and how it's impacts and on tax professionals, and AI experts, and for instance, like Kai-Fu Lee, and also and claims that AI is not suitable and or poorly suitable and for jobs and involving creativity and planning and cross and domain thinking. And as for instance, and also jobs and involving and people skills. And I think and the international tax lawyer and the nature of it is also very and complex. And also human touch is very difficult and to be learned by AI. And I also agree and with the two speakers, and that in the near future, and I don't think and we need to and worry about it. On the other hand, and manual and repetitive and also and process-driven tasks, and indeed and can be and more easily and replaced by AI. So I do think and some jobs and can be impacted, but I see this and change as a complementary and job enrichment. I'm also and I have a financial background, so I also see companies and engaging in different technology, and for instance, and business intelligence software. And this is designed to retrieve, analyze, and transform, and also report data. And so can be and like reports and also and even comprehensive dashboards can be generated and pretty fast. So yeah, so then the more time and can be freed up, and also for professionals and to partner and with business leads and to interpret, and for instance, like the various and outcomes, and also and to give recommendations and based on that. But of course, and this is also and on the foundation that the input and is correct and accurate. And so then I also and would think that for tax professionals, and this is also could, yeah, would be a similar trend. And this is my yeah, my input and for
Okay.
this topic.
Thank you very much. So it's good to hear the expectation. It's good to hear that the expectation from the pretty much all the regions we're representing is that we're not going to be fired by robots, at least not in the next couple of years. So let's move ahead.
Rustam, may I add a very quick thought to that?
Yes.
As all of us have noted, the area of activity is expanding. So in a way, the digitalization is an opportunity to expand both the broad general reach of international tax, but also the demand for high level expertise. So in fact, it may be digitalization may actually increase the amount of work that is available to all 11 of us.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. Can I also just quickly add, without taking much time, just quickly add my particular experience about AI. I did a certificate with MIT about application of AI in my own business as a government official. And my graduation project was indeed how AI could impact either our job or make it easier. And I remember in my graduation project in that certificate, the conclusions were that, yes, AI, as my colleagues perfectly mentioned, it could make life easier when it comes to, for example, risk assessments for audits. It could make things easier in terms of review of returns or pre-drafting of a legislation. But for example, AI, I don't personally see it taking over negotiating a tax treaty. Negotiation is a very human diplomatic skill. I don't see an AI taking over that one. Or drafting a legislation in terms of transfer pricing or a decree, for example. Also in terms of high level transfer pricing audit. AI could perfectly help in comparability analysis maybe, but there is always this fingerprint or smell of an auditor that I don't think really AI could take over. So these are just particular points from a government perspective that yes, AI could save 50–40% of the time, so we could concentrate on really high level human skills or skills that require high knowledge in international taxation. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your valuable comments. We need to move ahead and allow Case and Victor to discuss the next topic, which is pretty exciting. I'm really looking forward to hear your responses and comments of our alumni on this matter.
Yes, yes. The future. We see that there are some changes in the program. We are seeing that there are changes in our environment, and we see changes in a number of volumes of books published by ITC. So, Case, two questions. One is very general. What's the future of the program? Any ideas about dramatic changes, or there is a just organic evolution? And the books, how many books you will issue in 3 years? 10 volumes. Is it possible to read all of them during the program? So, question about the future of your program.
Sorry, I had difficulty with my muting. Well, if we start with the books, so ITC so far has concentrated on publishing books with the basic materials that one needs in studying international tax law. And well, as a matter of fact, there are sort of 3 general areas: let's say the tax treaty area and everything related to that. We have the EU tax law area, which has grown tremendously. And that's also a bit true for the transfer pricing area, where we had, of course, the transfer pricing guidelines. But for example, the United Nations is also spending more and more of its resources on transfer pricing. So we've been trying in our books to provide the materials that one needs as efficiently as possible. Well, these books are still physical books. So this is volume A, the text reading thing, which is well, of course pretty thick. If I look at my library and I look at the first edition we had some 20 years ago, of course only a fraction of that. And important question, of course, is how long are these physical books going to be around? How long will it take before they're all replaced by digital books? People simply reading things only online. What is difficult to predict? I think people like me, and also quite many years after me, people who were sort of educated and trained, with physical books, they find it difficult, I think, to always use instead of these physical books digital sources. We are not sort of used to that. We like the way in which you can sort of leaf through a book. But interestingly, at ITC we have held a number of times in the past decade. We have questioned our students about their preferences, whether we should sort of work towards replacing by digital books. And it turned out surprisingly that also people who are much younger do prefer, for studying reasons and also in their daily practice, have a physical book. Maybe for some things you may equally use a digital source, but the good things about physical books is you can very quickly look through it. It's the same with like your calendar. I use both a digital calendar and a physical calendar. For certain things, I think my physical calendar is superior. I can very quickly scan things that I cannot scan so quickly in a digital calendar, and the same is true for books. So personally, I believe that these books are going to be around, for many more years to go. Well, as far as the ITC programs are concerned, we are moving actually from putting our focus on full year programs to shorter programs. Shorter programs to make it possible for people who simply, as we discussed in the beginning, don't have the time, don't have the funds, are not in a personal situation that they can come over, that they can go to another country for a full year period, to give these people at a shorter time frame, at a smaller amount of money, and a sort of a smaller impact on their personal life and their professional life, working with a particular firm in the country, to engage in solid text trading online. And that's something that I'm personally, spending a lot of time on right now to sort of develop the outline within which we can develop these courses. Take care of the obvious drawbacks. As we discussed earlier, it's less effective. Try to make greater use of the added possibilities that you have when you teach online, with calling in all sort of digital help to make things in your knowledge transferring approach more efficient. So that's where ITC is heading right now. Sort of a greater focus on online availability, and try to accommodate as much as possible the changing needs that people interested in being trained have developed in recent weeks and months and years. I look forward to that.
Okay, thank you, Kees. We also have contributions from several alumni on this question, and of course this is approach, like projecting, maybe even shaping, because some of the speakers at this event, they are really in position to define how the international taxation program will look like. Case is definitely one of them, because Case is really a pioneer in launching international taxation programs. And Andrei, he is head of tax of the region of one of the largest corporations in the world. So it's basically it's a manageable process. Anyway, that's kind of philosophical thinking, philosophical thought. Marcus, what would be your comment on expectation on international taxation program in the future?
Yeah, I can speak also, well, actually a bit more about our region here, and I think I do agree with Case in a way that I think there will be more demand on let's say on a shorter period program, and where people do not have to spend, let's say, the full year abroad, because also the challenge would be that again, I mean, it will interrupt also the professional life, and I mean, more the private life, but also more of the professional life here, especially in the let's say fast changing let's say environment that we live in here as well. Let's say if you would be absent from your profession for like just 3 or 4 months, then there will be already a lot of things that's going on. So I think if there's an institution that can offer such product with the possibility of a combination between online and maybe other social extent as well, or for a certain shorter period, that you also have, let's say, the offline part to compensate the networking aspect here. I think that would be something that people are, I think, would be interested in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. David, you also had some thoughts on this.
As I said before, there's a segregation between even the most very sophisticated business practitioners and tax practitioners in the US who do international and those who do not. As Case and I discussed, the one possibility, I think it's for someone wanting to teach US tax lawyers about international tax, it's a door which when you push, it will open very easily. First of all, almost all of the, I can't be sure because there are more than 100 law schools in the US, but I'm pretty sure that almost all, if not other than maybe at NYU and University of Miami perhaps, and 1 or 2 other places, even the international education is just US international education. When I was at 482 is the transfer pricing rules in the US, and when I started transfer pricing, it took me about 3 or 4 days to realize that I was learning about section 482, even though I had taken courses on transfer to 482 back in law school. So again, there's just this compartmentalization. So one thing that Case and I talked about was where there would be a presentation, perhaps part online and part in person, say an online 1 or 2 week digest of international tax, not from the perspective of US tax rules, but tax treaties, transfer pricing, EU rules, and so forth, and issues that are important to China and India and other countries that are very active in the formation and evolution of this law. And then the online thing would just give people break through this blind spot that almost all US lawyers have. But then if you were also to have an in-person event, even if it were just a week or 2, and these lawyers were able to interact with other colleagues, both within the US and elsewhere, you'd get some of the networking effect. So I think that is a door that could be pushed open very easily. It's just ridiculous how solipsistic the professional viewpoint is on that. And I'm going to try to stop, but I want to just add, by the way, there's a University of Texas A&M. Texas A&M has a mostly online course, and then there's a new program. I say new, it's relatively new, 10 years old, at one of the University of California campuses, University of California, Irvine. And I think they're starting to do that, but I just don't see where they're really pushing that door. And I think there's a huge opportunity. It's an opportunity for people teaching tax, and it's a wonderful resource to be offered to US tax lawyers who frankly don't even realize that they don't know what they don't know.
Okay. Well, if I slightly reshape the question, this international taxation program in the future, from perspective of employers, Marcus and Andrei, how you would like to international taxation look like in the future to help you with a qualified workforce? So basically, is there anything you are missing and present in the market, and what should be the ideal course which would solve your pain, which will solve your needs?
Well, there is, I have just experience with upstream international taxation course on audit qualification.
Andrei, mic is off. We cannot hear you.
But I mean, that's really per demand, because if you talk about the multinationals in industry, mostly international tax job is done at headquarters with some interaction by like local country heads on some issues, but most of the thinking done centrally. So for me and educating my team, it's usually how to claim more practical things, how to claim treaty benefits, how to claim reduce withholding taxes, and many things like that. So it could be a relatively short-term courses that have a core of KEYS program like he has at summertime, with some particular features that may be practical for a specific country.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And Marcus, what's your?
Yes, I think I agree with Andre. I think we need to look at it from two aspects here: the shorter term and the longer term. Although you say like, okay, what is the future? So I want to split the shorter and then longer term. I think the shorter term is that considering that there has been a lot of development, and it's quite fast development in our region, so that would be that would be great to be able to educate the existing staff or the existing people who actually work in taxation in the specific aspect of international taxation that they need for their day-to-day job, right? Because for now, to send an expert, especially that those people or the workforce back to school and gotta take let's say the full degree program, that would be not practical. That's the way I look at it. However, in the longer term, I mean, as I said earlier, at least in our research that we did quite briefly, is that none of the university in the GCC are currently offering like a specialization in international taxation. So that would be something that maybe one want to look at, and so that firm like ours could actually get let's say a similar level of let's say fresh graduates, similar level of staff that comes from such specialized let's say program directly from the university. That would be my opinion.
Okay, okay, thank you, thanks a lot. And
Can I add something?
May I ask your comment on this?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, I think the easiest things in the international tax world is to predict the future. You know why? Because one thing you're talking about is already done in other part of law. So I can give you a specific example. I think I agree first with what Kay said about books. I mean, there are a lot of articles from Stanford, Harvard University coming out that the human brain read from books. But what we have in nowadays, if you look at the different legal part of the world, not the international tax, we have hybrid books. We have books that actually with your phone, you're standing on the article and suddenly imagine yourself seeing Kay standing on the book and talking to you in three-dimensional. We are doing a lot of, you talk about international tax. I mean, last year I did 120 or something internal courses within huge law firms. So instead of, how the expression goes, instead of, I think in Dutch we say, instead of Moses goes to the mountain, mountain come to Moses, or instead of Muhammad go to the mountains, imagine when you think about public event, We take the best people in the world and come within the firm, and nobody knows about it. It's happening within firm. So that's answering David. I mean, we're doing in the legal world virtual reality. I mean, just recently we built the moot court for big law firms in the US that they are practicing. It looks like the Boston moot court, exactly like Boston court, and they're practicing everything in three-dimensional with everybody wearing the glasses. You know, so what are you thinking is the future? It's already happening now. I mean, just remember, we talked about doing that online 10 years ago. I mean, in talks when the technology was a little bit in the past. But, you know, before being international tax, I was an IT guy. And I was fascinated by so many opportunities, but people don't see it. So I like to be always two steps ahead. I can definitely guarantee you the opportunity to take case and bring him as hologram within the law firm in our days, not in the future. It's just a matter of willing. And now he's standing three-dimensional in front of lawyers, but he sits in his house in Leiden or in the Hague. See, these are opportunities you have to see. So the demand for knowledge is now and not in the future. The people who will bring the knowledge now to the people will win. I mean, and there's a lot of firms investing a lot of money now because they don't want to send their people around the world and missing 1 year. So, you know, I'm doing virtual event from 2005, and we have hundreds of thousands of participants, not 1,000, not 60, hundreds of thousands of people from around the world, people that cannot afford to travel, to stay here, to get accommodation. They're already doing it. And, you know, and the only thing happened last year, just accelerated. I mean, you look this year, see a lot of programs coming in. So I think the beauty about Leiden, I think that's what I think everybody should remember. And I think that's where other universities that I'm helping now in different part of law, realizing they never did it. If you take any university, they took their own professor teaching them to people. And they use the fact that they have a big name and everybody can't pay a lot of money. But guess what? In our days, everybody looking to what Case did so many years ago. They're looking to get the best professor from this university, best professor from here, best professor here, and get the best program in the world online and a fraction of the price. And now the competition is internationally, the competition not locally. And I think that's what people should curve, to get the best knowledge and a fraction of the time right now. And there's all the technology available. It's not future thing. It's future international tax because we're thinking about it. I think we all as a lawyer to lawyers as well, those who are lawyers around us, knows that we are so behind. You know, the people, as Case mentioned before, the medical world, they are the first people to implement. They do plastic surgeries and heart surgeries with virtual reality. So these things exist. It just open your eyes and let's implement, let's change it, because don't wait. I mean, the need is now for the knowledge, for the people, for education.
Okay, I always love to listen to ITC because he is very inspirational. And well, let's do the next event with 100,000 participants. Case presenting his program to all the world. There was an interesting comment from one of our attendants, like the views are so beautiful, and I realized that just sitting in boring office. So we have deep blue sky here in Holland, really beautiful. Just wanted to show this. This reminds me my days in Leiden. And now we are moving to the next topic. Actually, we're a bit out of time, but well, as long if you can afford this, to comment on the question number 6. What is the observation in respect of regional developments? Victor, maybe we can start with you. What is your comment on balance of offering and demand of international tax courses in your region, which is in your case Russia?
Well, I think it's pretty much our own region because you also understand what's going on here. And a well-known expert on the Russian SAS territory, but we see more and more interest for international taxation in the sense of education, and the financial university which I represent, well, already have 2 programs, 2 master programs, one in Russian, one in English. Also, we have a postgraduate program. Well, in short, we have more programs, and one program maybe Rustam will also say a little bit more, but definitely in our region, at least in Russia, definitely we have strong demand, and people from, well, from different levels, from different ages, they understand more and more that they need this expertise. Don't see these in our neighbor countries, but I think that, well, it is just question of time, and they will follow the suit. So that's it.
Okay. Well, speaking of neighboring countries, Andrei, in Kazakhstan, what is your observation? What is happening there?
I mean, there was one guy from Vienna who taught at one university in KIMEP on international tax, but he's now gone. So there is some program, but the level of trainings is not as good as it could be. But still, there are mostly in-house training within Big Fours that are delivered, and there are also advanced internet ADIT program trainings that are done by some, course providers for Kazakhstan market. But otherwise, I mean, there is a demand, but there is not much supply.
Okay, okay, good. David, I really admire your strength, because it's early morning in Washington, D.C., where you're located at present. You are still with us, so you really deserve an applaud. But please share with us your view on the U.S. market.
Well, I spoke earlier about the door which will open easily if you push, but that was really more on the supply side, the lawyers who would realize that it would be immensely valuable for them to have this information or expertise. But there's also a very easy door to push open on the demand side in the US. You know, there are the clients of the Big Four accounting firms and Baker McKenzie and DLA Piper and so forth. But there is a huge, huge market of existing smaller multinationals. I'll give you very quickly two examples. Two people that I have had a professional relationship with for years. When I came back from Leiden, one of them said, you know, my family owns this manufacturing company and they have a factory in India. They don't know what the hell they're doing as far as structuring. And someone else had a supply chain that ran through the Caribbean. His brother ran a company. They don't know where to find tax lawyers. So again, to reach out to the sort of middle market of tax lawyers, very high level, sophisticated people who know zero about international tax or only know about the US side of international tax. That allows them to turn the lights on for clients that already are in their office, you know, who are not getting the best possible advice on international matters.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Bija, moving further to China, maybe Yimin and you can comment on Chinese developments. What is happening in respect of international taxation courses there?
Yeah, good. I will first start, and Yimin and also will give more comments and regarding these subjects. And we think, and Yimin and myself, two subjects, and will give quite big and important sense in the near future, and actually even also now, if possible. That is first taxation on digitalization, and also second is regarding the soft and the skills, and for instance, and like critical reasoning and critical reasoning, and also cross-examination and litigation and strategy and formulation. And the reason and why we think and taxation on digitalization is important is, as also we earlier and discussed, that digitalization is an irreversible trend, and also COVID-19 and accelerating this process. And also OECD and acknowledge that, and in the digitalized economy and market countries and are granted and with rights and to exercise their taxing powers. And but on the other hand, and countries and like UK, France, India, and introduce and their countrywide and digital tax and to digital companies. And so it's not and very and in line and with the goal in the context and of international taxation, that is to reach harmony. And so we believe that taxation and on digitalization and training and will and also and to give the tools and also the means and to be and more updated and within all the alignments and also even and to drive its development.
Okay.
And as for and also and we think and regarding the type and of education, and we think and full-time and distance learning and to be combined, because and as for full-time and people nowadays and not only students and also and professionals and think there's a lot of entertainment behind the laptops and also and in the Zoom meeting and also lack of and face-to-face and interaction. And so over time and motivation and also and the inner drive and is gradually sliding. And so yeah, so if it's full distance learning and it seems it's not and very and much option, and even though and it gives and flexibility and convenience. And so and we believe that in China and like every and 2 months and there's and physical and lectures and in place and last and for instance like 2 weeks, and it's will be and very and recommendable and during the COVID-19 situation. And as for the for the lens, for instance, and like if and we need to and have and systematic and view and about and to be established and in international tax, and we would and also suggest and a full year program. Of course, and on the other hand, and we also and need to and give flexibility and for professionals. And so if it's a short term, and we can have and the focus and also and dedication and on certain topics. And so like ITC summer course, this is and something and we can also and continue and in Chinese market. Because and it has the limited and period of time and around and 1 month or 2 months, and it does and also and give and intensive training. And Yiming, now I hand over to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, in terms, local player of the international tax training program, actually apart from the university, and in 2018, IBFD launched a 6 months, such a program, and also there's a local company called Smart, and they give a international tax course several times, and each time they lasting 4 days. So to conclude, there's no a player like ITC in China. So, but actually in China, there's we already store some tax export and from SAT, university, Big Four, law firms. But it seems like there's a shortage of resources to organize and conduct these programs like ITC did. So I foresee there's more demanding for ITC international tax export, but due to its complicated character, there will be not abundant unless Chinese company facing a lot of tax dispute abroad. So they will realize an important role of international tax manager, and then at that time there will be a lot of demanding for that kind of talents. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Emin. Case, I'm wondering, as we're a bit late and you might have some other engagement, can you stay with us for another 15 minutes when we properly finalize? You would need to leave earlier.
Yes, well, 15 minutes is a bit long because I do have an appointment at 10 to 12.
Okay, good. Maybe you can just say concluding words and we continue in slightly reverse order. Because your opinion on this is very, very important. It's
okay. Well, I think the overall perception is that we are at a as I said earlier, at crossroads. You know, things are going to be different in the years to come compared to the past few years. ITC is very happy to be part of that changing scenario. We are working at developing shorter courses that are of interest for people in practice who are not able to travel for a longer time, be away from their job and their family for a longer period of time. And in that respect, maybe I can call attention to two courses we actually will be offering shortly. Next week, we are making a start with our US tax law courses. We have two courses, a US corporate course for people who want to be familiar with US domestic tax law in the corporate, with a focus on the international dimension side. And at the end of April, we started with the US international tax course, taught by Steve Shea, who will be teaching with us for many years. So these courses are available for everyone to join. And then in July, we're going to have our annual summer course again, which is going to be both if the COVID-19 developments permit, and it's going to be online. So that's another opportunity for people to join an activity of ITC. But I also look forward to further events in the fashion that we are discussing right now, developments as they affect practice, developments as they affect academia, involving alumni of ITC and other young practitioners. I think it's an excellent initiative that the two of you took, and I'm very much looking forward to be part of that again. So thank you so much for organizing this, and well, I'm very pleased. I wouldn't stop before saying a very short greeting to Irina. Irina is not part of the panel. I see she joined, so Irina Vuzakova, I've known her for many years, and I'm very happy that she's also part of the audience today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Case. Thanks. Well, we're not closing yet because we still Marcus and Ludmila and maybe Monia also would be willing to comment. Just allowed Case not to miss his next meeting. Ludmila, what is your comment on Russian market? Because you didn't get your LLM in Russia, although you started with this 20 years after myself. So at that time, there were no courses in Russia. I went to Leiden. So your comment will be also very much appreciated.
Yeah, I think also there is a quite high demand for programs in international tax in Russia. And yeah, I took it like really seriously, and because I wanted to have a proper, like, solid background in international tax to be able to develop further professionally. So, and I think it's because nowadays we have more opportunities, and it's great to have combinations and different options. I think for those who kind of really looking for solid academic background and who want really to get proper understanding of all concepts of international taxation, it's better to search for like master program, like full year or 2 years program, to really be able to absorb all the knowledge. But also as a practitioner, I like realized that due to like very speedy developments like in the recent years, it's very important to keep yourself up to date and also to attend different short course, and it's also very helpful because there are many developments which you're not encounter in practice really often, but at the same time they're very very important and may help you in your practice. So, and also it's good to have different options in terms of real life attendance and online courses. So of course, it's always nice to be able to communicate in real life, to meet your colleagues, meet professors, discuss in real life with other professionals problems you have. But yeah, due to the COVID restrictions, most of us were not able to travel and even not able to attend like gatherings and events. But we still need to update our knowledge. And in this case, online courses, they're great help and great benefit. So you can still up to date, you can still in touch with your colleagues, you can get updates from all over the world. So I think it's great, and it's good that nowadays we can choose different options based on our time and our preferences and our personal circumstances.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ludmila. Marcus, very brief, in couple of contributions you already covered, Gulf developments, maybe you can just summarize what would be the conclusion, what are the major trends. If you could do it within like 2 minutes, we need to also allow Monia to comment and close this before 12 o'clock.
Yeah, thank you, Rustam. I also need to leave very soon. So I've mentioned a couple of development earlier. I mean, there's I think that the most important thing is that, at least in the shorter term, is some kind of a program that, let's say, professionals can actually combine at the same time with their professional work and their education, the international tax. Now, another thing that I have noticed as well, which Ichik said earlier, like, okay, you know what, it's international taxation program or education is something that your ability to look into the future. So again, I mean, yes, in our jurisdiction, there has been, let's say, a fast development, but the fast development is due to the region itself is catching up with the other region, like we were talking about the EU, for instance, in terms of the implementation of OECD BEPS. And of course, the demand for people from the, let's say, more mature jurisdiction to actually give such kind of training in our region would be something that needs to be taken into consideration as well, that there might be some interesting demand over there. So that would be my concluding remark.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Marcus, for joining and supporting this discussion with this insight from the Gulf region. Monia, please.
Yeah, just quickly, I would add to what Marcus mentioned. There's a need for diversity. Definitely, as my colleagues mentioned, if someone could afford and they have time to go for full time, it's a must. At least we have someone within the team who is, you know, the go-to, or be the person who is the go-to for deeper and academic questions. But for just small programs, we need a diversity, either those programs that are like putting things in a nutshell and building from scratch, or the advanced level. In the Middle East, for instance, I would add that there's a need for Arabic speaking programs. Yes, we can always speak English, or in North Africa, it's in French, but it's always nice to have something that is local, since the official working language in all the administrations there is Arabic. Then it would be really great to have an offer in international tax education in Arabic. And the same, I would say, for North Africa, something in French. Ideally, I would stop here maybe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well, I believe we all shared our views and thoughts on this matter. If there are any willingness to add something to this, there is still option, although we are running out of time. Victor, it would make a lot of sense to give you to conclude this session. If Irina Georgievna would be able to join, we will all be honored, but we didn't really agree on this in advance. So Also, I would like to say a few words of appreciation what Irina Georgievna Rusakova did for all of us in the past and what she's still doing, because I remember myself being younger, like 20 years younger, being admitted to such a reputable organization as IFA and meeting Victor and lots of other people. But that's also kind of memories. Victor, floor is yours. Please feel free to conclude this session with your.
Well, thank you, Rustam. Well, Case saying that when he was asked why he's doing all these things, there are three main reasons. Well, first of all, international taxation is an interesting topic. Then there are nice people around, and also, well, actually, it's a good profession from salary perspective. I think that today's discussion actually it's just another evidence of these nice people. We like the process, topic is great, and there are many perspectives, and I'm listening and thinking about also future. And here in Russia, we are doing many new things, some of them with Rustam, some with other colleagues, trying to develop international taxation programs and general communication with international tax practitioners around the world using IFA network. So I think that we really might have pleasure and create new opportunities using all these things like ITC network. So I'm thinking about new events, and maybe I and Rustam will be back with the proposals how to structure new meetings to develop this good relationship with colleagues.
Thank you very much, Victor. So I thank you all the panelists, the attendants who stayed with us for like 2 hours in this really live and interactive discussion. So really a great pleasure to see you all. Thank you for joining this discussion on pretty short notice. And let's communicate and do some other interesting events and discussions, maybe some real life projects. Thank you all. Thanks, bye.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank